welcome back to What the Film, and welcome back to our 2010s movie tournament. 128 movies, one winner in this 5-episode mini-series that we're essentially doing. So, yeah.
Hype.
Big hype. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
It's me, Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hello, everybody. You know the intro by now.
And it's me, Brendan Noone, special guest for this
Woo-hoo.
bracket series.
Yeah. So just to do a quick recap on the previous round that we just recorded, but for all of you, would have been a week ago. If you haven't seen that or listened to that episode and you want to, you should click off because we're going to reveal who won that bracket. And yeah, anyways, 3, 2, 1. Our advancing movies to the Sweet 16 are Parasite, who's going to be going up against Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and then La La Land, who is going up against The Lego Movie.
Which is the biggest Cinderella story of, hopefully, the entire tournament.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
I would not be surprised at some
All
other
right.
Cinderellas. With that being said, I think we should just dive right in.
The Spider-Verse quarter, as we're going to call
Spider-Verse
it.
quarter, that's what we're calling it.
The Spider-Verse quarter.
Parasite quarter was last episode. Now we're on Spider-Verse quarter. Starting off, of course, with Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse specifically. Across the Spider-Verse was not a 2010s movie. Up against Lincoln. Tough matchup.
Clearly.
Super tough.
I have no idea what I'm going to pick here.
Funny you say clearly, because I think that Spider-Verse clears Lincoln.
Do we even need to talk about Lincoln? I have nothing to
No.
say about Lincoln.
I don't really have anything else.
Yeah, it's
anything to say.
just
either.
okay. And
It's
Into
not,
the Spider-Verse
it's not
is amazing.
bad, but like I would not fight it being here as a 32 seed.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. All right, next up, we got number 16, Dunkirk, up against 17, Sicario. I think this
Should
is
I
our
go
first interesting matchup.
Should I go first on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
This is such an interesting matchup
Mhm.
where you have really who I would call the two biggest directors working right now.
I would
With-
say no. I would say that you're forgetting
Who
Greta
would you
Gerwig.
say? I feel like just because of the heft of the filmography, like Greta Gerwig within the number of movies that Nolan and Villeneuve have made will definitely get there. I just think that because they have more to their name right now, that's
but
the argument I would make.
Villeneuve took so much longer to get where he's gotten. Well, I'd say Greta is a lot more like Nolan 20 years ago.
I guess I think they're just more comparable just because of like their style of direction is much more similar.
Yes,
when
that
compared
that
to
I
Greta
would agree
Gerwig.
with. Yes.
Yeah. And this is interesting because like Dunkirk is not considered a top tier Nolan movie. Sicario is not considered a top tier Villeneuve movie, but they're both great and I love them both and they're really close for me.
Yeah.
And I saw Dunkirk in IMAX when it came out. I didn't like it because I wasn't into movies then, so I didn't appreciate it the way that I clearly should have.
Yeah.
But in time, that opinion has been mended quite a bit. And for whatever reason, there was one rewatch where I just fell in love with it. And that has not happened with Sicario yet. Sicario, I have only watched in full once. I have gone back and watched parts of it since then. But Dunkirk, as an experience, I think has just stood above Sicario to where I like want to go back and rewatch it more. The way that like the 3 different timelines intersect, I think is so cool. Harry Styles is here for some reason, sure.
Yeah.
This was like before we laughed at him for trying to be a movie star, like in Don't Worry Darling and his 10-second Eternals cameo. And I don't know, it's such a tense war movie. There's like the ticking clock the whole time in the background of the score. Sicario obviously has really tense moments. I think really when Benicio del Toro comes like the center of the movie and you realize that like it's his story that this is really about, I think it gets really interesting. But Dunkirk narrowly is my pick here. But it's a nail biter.
I'm gonna go with the contrary. I'm gonna go with Sicario. I just find Sicario to be a more interesting film. I think that the characters are way better developed in Sicario. I don't even think it's close.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think
Let-
Dunkirk is
let me
worried about his
just-
characters.
Give away the cast of Sicario. Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin, Daniel Kaluuya. Just that four alone, plus then John Bernthal, who's in it for a little bit, just kind of crazy.
So good.
And they're all fantastic in their own right. I mean, it's Emily Blunt's film, but Josh Brolin, I think, really gives probably the best performance I've seen from him. Granted, the other performances I've seen from him are in just big blockbuster tentpole movies, but still, I'd say that says something. And I just think that the directorial decisions by Denis in this film are, to me, more interesting than just kind of Nolan making a Nolan movie, but during war. I found Sicario to still stand out amongst Denis' filmography in his decisions, and especially during the like UV scene. You know what I'm talking about? Like the night vision scene.
Yeah.
Like that was just absurd.
I think Sicario is really, really great. Great cast, really great sequences, and it gets much more interesting once Benicio del Toro comes into it. A great story. But I'm gonna have to go with
the bridge scene. Oh, the scene on the bridge. Okay, I'm sorry.
And the bridge scene, but I'm gonna have to go with Dunkirk. I think I resonate with Dunkirk. I resonate with Dunkirk a little more. I think it's a fantastic war film. I love how it it's kind of mostly dialogue less, and it kind of mostly just kind of focuses on all these soldiers, and then contrasted with the civilians and the pilot over kind of different time periods. And I think it's really well edited, and yeah, it's just a great war movie. I think it's really well done. It's one of Nolan's best.
All right. Next we have 8 seed Lady Bird versus 25 seed Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Really interesting matchup.
Yeah.
I'm so tempted to go with Force Awakens, but I'm gonna go with Lady Bird.
Okay.
I'm also gonna go with Lady Bird.
Me too.
Such a great coming of age movie. And Force Awakens, on the other hand, is a great film in its own right. I think just the magic of it reintroducing audiences to Star Wars and bringing that back was incredible. One of the best theatrical experiences of my life.
Totally. Same.
But Lady Bird is just too good for the theatrical experience of Force Awakens to overcome it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. I guess we're moving on.
Yeah, we're breezing through some of these.
Yeah, we really are.
When's it gonna get heated like it was last time?
It will at some point.
All right.
Maybe now with number 9
nervous.
Avengers Endgame versus 24 Moana.
Yeah.
Who wants to take it?
I'm gonna go with Avengers Endgame over Moana. Moana is a great movie. It's definitely a classic Disney movie. Great. Moana's a great character, so is Maui, and so is all the supporting cast, and has a fantastic soundtrack, so many classic songs. But I think I prefer Endgame over this. Endgame is one of the best Marvel movies. I think it's a fantastic experience, both from beginning to the end. So many great endings for the characters, so many great sequences, and yeah, that final third is like maybe the best theater experience I've ever had. Just like
Loads.
That's fair.
Like sometimes I forget how fun that like portal scene was.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you've ever called me Logs?
I think it is.
How
Should I
does that make
stick
you
to
feel?
it or should I stop immediately?
I don't know. That was
Okay.
an interesting decision.
Should I do it more and then you'll get a better sense of like if you like it or not?
I don't know.
Should I do that, Logs?
Okay, Kauf.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that,
go
that
with-
can end.
I'm gonna go with Endgame
Okay.
as well. I want to go with Moana. I do, but Endgame is Endgame. It's my second favorite Marvel movie behind Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which isn't even on this bracket. So, my favorite Marvel movie on this bracket.
Vibes. Yeah, I'm also going to pick Endgame. We established last episode, I think between the two of us, I'm more the Infinity War guy, you're more the Endgame guy. I think for me, that's just because Infinity War, I can pick apart less. I think Endgame, parts of it I find a little messy, a little overlong. Fat Thor, I don't love. Like there are parts of how certain characters were handled that I don't love. I think it's because, again, they're balancing so many, and there's only so much like deep emotional closure you can give to people before you start spreading yourself a little thin. That being said, I do think it has higher highs. Like, it's essentially 3 different movies, where the first hour is like this kind of somber aftermath to the snap and everything that happens after that, where it's just everyone kind of trying to move on and so clearly can't. And then the second hour is this fun, silly time travel adventure, which like exists purely for fan service, but it's the good kind of fan service where you just like, I love what they are like. This made me appreciate Thor: The Dark World. Never thought that would happen, and yet it does.
It does.
And then the third hour is just the big, like, bombastic CGI battle where you can root for the heroes and you have all these cheer-worthy moments. Seeing Cap like with the hammer in a theater, that was so cool. I'm not
so cool.
It's still cool. It's just cool.
I view Endgame just kind of as a stronger Last Jedi.
Okay.
In the sense of like how we talked about Last Jedi in the last episode, where it's this good but obviously flawed movie. That's pretty much how I view Avengers Endgame to a T.
Okay.
I love the film, but it's flawed, and I can't defend its flaws. They are there, and I recognize it, but I love the movie regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Gone Girl versus Gravity, number 4 versus 29. I think Gone Girl clears.
I agree.
Okay.
It's going to be really awkward when you say
is...
something clears and then it doesn't, and then that's like...
and then...
Whoops.
Yeah, well, I'm luckily...
This is a boring quarter of the bracket so far.
Yeah, so far this is really boring. Like, we're running through this, which is weird because that did not happen.
Yeah. What do we have to say on Gravity, since I guess we're not going to talk about it again?
It's a great movie.
Cool one take.
Yeah.
A lot of cool, very cool one take.
Wish I got to see it in a theater on my iPad. It just doesn't stand up.
I didn't appreciate it back then.
Yeah, they should have done a re-release because it would have been the 10th anniversary last year, I believe. They should have done a re-release. That would have been fun to see.
They should have, yeah. I'm sure that they will for like 25 or something. We'll be in our 30s. Oh my god. Okay.
Dear Lord.
All right. Guardians of the Galaxy versus The Martian.
13 versus 20.
One.
This
Space
one,
movie battle.
I'll go first. I'll take it.
Okay.
I feel like I am about to really make Logan sad. I hope not. I'm picking The Martian. And it's close. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy, comedically, is potentially the strongest MCU movie. I think the way, and we've talked about it on here before, the way that James Gunn takes characters who are relatively unknowns and immediately injects so much charisma into this team, like every member of the cast brings it. Visually, I think it's even one of the more interesting Marvel outings. However, I think The Martian is just such a fun movie just to watch. Like, I watched this in science class, and it's such a crowd pleaser, but it's the kind of crowd pleaser that I just can't dislike because, like, again, the cast here has a ton of charisma. Crazy ensemble cast. So many people that I forget were part of this. And you have Matt Damon really being the one to carry everything. And maybe I'm also biased because I did read the book, and I read it after watching the movie, and it's better than the movie because the book's always better than the movie. But I think that made me appreciate the story even more, where it is this, like, very realistic, grounded sci-fi type thing, where it's not science fiction in that, like, there are these crazy ideas having to do with space that you've never heard of. It's science fiction in that it's just a story that is fictitious that uses science kind of as the basis for the story. And I think that's really cool. And I just like how this movie is able to jump around to a bunch of different subplots. And it's fun. Like, this is just a fun, good time.
It is.
Yeah. I feel like I'm about to lose here.
What do you think, Brendan?
Yeah, I disagree with Ethan. I'm going with Guardians of the Galaxy, which is I think tied with Avengers 1 for like my favorite MCU movie. I think Guardians 1 is just amazing, strongest comedy, great job at introducing all these different characters and kind of just an excellent balance of both. There's some of the funniest scenes, but there's also just such a great emotional core here. Like it's like there's a talking raccoon and a talking tree, but like yet there's just so much emotion with them and so much emotion with everything else. And even some of the not so great parts, like Rodin's not the best villain and Thanos isn't as good here as he is in Infinity War. It's just, it doesn't really, the flaws are like outshined by all the pros. I just think, yeah, it's amazing, amazing action. Love the soundtrack here. I just think Guardians Galaxy, easy win here.
Well, I think The Martian is a fantastic crowd-pleasing film. The Guardians of the Galaxy has so many heartfelt moments and just scenes and really develops its characters in such a beautiful way, especially during that one just shocking scene where Ego tells Peter, how he killed his mom. But oh wait, that's the
part two.
sequel.
That's volume 2. Yeah. You can loop them in with each other if you want, I guess.
Yeah, that's the sequel, which is why I'm going with The Martian. I kind of
scripted that in my head. Oh my god! Plot twist! Plot twist!
You're kidding me. You gotta
I kind of scripted that in my head. If this was part 2, I would have been kind of hurt by your decision, Ethan.
Okay.
Damn.
But part 1,
Guardians 1,
I think is good, but I think 2 is just an upgrade in pretty much every way, in my opinion.
No.
Even I think the soundtrack in 2 is like just as good. But yeah, I think The Martian is just such a good crowd-pleasing space movie and is totally worthy of being a all-time space movie.
I think this is the most shocked I have been this whole tournament so far.
Not Guardians.
Wow, I didn't expect
guys.
that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brendan.
Sorry, Brendan.
Damn.
Marvel is not doing too hot.
They'll
in this tournament.
have their moment. Maybe,
also,
I don't know.
Star Wars is gone. I just realized that clicked in my head.
No. Oh no.
Longest lasting Star Wars movie was The Last Jedi in the round of 64.
I mean, like it
not
should
the strongest
be,
decade for Star Wars.
No.
I wouldn't say.
All right, well, our next matchup is number 5 Moonlight versus 28 Annihilation. And I think before we start voting,
I think we have
Ethan and I gotta just talk about how we forgot Moonlight. We are the new Oscar committee, apparently.
I spent 2.5 hours seeding the entire tournament and filling in the whole bracket, and then realized we forgot Moonlight and we had to shift everything around so that it could be here because it has to be here. It's Moonlight.
It does. It has to be here. And speaking of Moonlight, I think it clears who it's against. Number 28, Annihilation.
Yeah. And I love Annihilation. And my dad will kill me that we're barely going to talk about it. He's such a huge Annihilation fan, and through him I have gained this appreciation for it, where it's not my favorite Alex Garland movie by a long shot, but visually, conceptually, it's so cool. But Moonlight is easily one of the best coming of age movies to come out of the 2010s, and while we may disagree with I know I personally would have picked La La Land to win Best Picture, it absolutely deserves that title, and I think it is such a good Best Picture winner, and so I can't vote against it here. It's Moonlight.
Yeah.
We spent hours going crazy just so it could be here. We can't take it out the first round.
Yeah, Moonlight is that good. It has to be in the bracket.
Yeah. Kind of another one of the films that I dub as a bisexual awakening film.
Fair.
In a very different context than something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But for me, it just had kind of a big impact on me discovering that side of myself. So I have kind of just personal reasons for why I just really like Moonlight and think it deserves to get far in this bracket.
Yeah.
Anywho, I guess we'll move on to Birdman and The Big Short. And who wants to take this?
I'll start with Birdman. I think Birdman is a fantastic film. It does, it used like 1917, which is also in this bracket. It uses the one take, and I think it uses the one take really well. It has fantastic performances throughout from Michael Keaton and Emma Stone and Edward Norton. I think it's just an excellent drama from beginning to end. So many great scenes, it's fantastic. And The Big Short is great, but I don't think it's as good as Birdman.
Yeah.
I know, Ethan, you didn't even want The Big Short on this bracket.
I don't care for it. I only watched it for the first time recently, and I think, like, I respect it. It's doing what a lot, like, I compared it to Succession a lot when I was watching it and thinking about it, and Succession's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's just, like, it is so unrefined. It's really messy. It's really choppy. There's a lot of characters to keep track of. And I know it's like not trying to make it easy for you to understand like all of the economics talk and all of that. I just couldn't follow what was going on. And I don't need it to dumb it down to my level. It just seemed like it was the kind of movie that wanted to use big words to explain concepts that really aren't that complicated, and to then just kind of like look down at me as oh, you don't get it because these are the pros who knew what was going on, and I don't know. I don't care for it. Birdman has been it's not all-time favorite, but it's been a favorite for a very long time since I first watched it. And I think just what is done with the camera is so cool. And there's so many performances here that are like off the walls, so much fun. I love them. And I think it has some really interesting stuff to say about like performers that I don't know if any other movie in this bracket really does. And this is one of the most decisive victories probably of the bracket for me.
I agree. I was going to just say that Birdman cleared, but then I realized I kind of have introduced movies like that for a big chunk of this bracket and wanted to maybe make it interesting, even though I kind of expected it to not be interesting. Yeah, it's Birdman, I think, is great. It's a beautiful film with some of the best acting of the decade, but also The Big Short just is one of the weaker movies here. I mean, it's ranked, I think, too highly at 21. That seems very high. I also feel like of these kind of quote unquote new wave Adam McKay type of films, it's his weakest one, in my opinion. I prefer Vice and Don't Look Up, which I know is kind of a hot take, but I just didn't like The Big Short that much. I was just kind of like, meh.
Oh, that's interesting. I like The Big Short much more than Vice and Don't Look Up.
Yeah,
I think I probably prefer Vice to it narrowly, and then like both of those more than Don't Look Up. But like they're all kind of around the same like 3.5 star range for me. Which like it's an okay movie. It's fine. I don't hate it, but like for this bracket, get out of here.
Yep.
We don't have time for it. It's okay.
All right, let's go to number 2, Grand Budapest Hotel versus 31, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I know how we're all going to vote here, but I want to acknowledge that Buster Scruggs is our only Coen Brothers movie here, which is why I think we should just talk for a second and just be like, we know that Inside Llewyn Davis is a better movie than The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, but sadly, we had to just take off a couple of films that... like we did not want to take off from being on this bracket, but because one or two of us hadn't seen them, we had to, and Inside Llewyn Davis was one of those cuts. So I want to acknowledge that the Coen brothers were a thing in the 2010s, and that is why we have The Ballad of Buster Scruggs here, to respect them.
Yeah.
Even though we're knocking it out clearly.
We put it in here to die, but it's okay, because at least it's in here.
There you go. I'm guessing this is a 3-0, right?
Yeah.
Brendan?
Yep. Grand Budapest.
Okay. Yeah, I saw you nod, and I was like,
yeah.
Okay, I think. All right.
All right.
Then we have back-to-back Wes Anderson films with Isle of Dogs versus Room.
This is one of the tougher ones that we've gotten to so far, where Isle of Dogs, I have a very interesting relationship with. I think it is incredibly underrated. Nobody ever puts it in like their top 3, 4, 5 Wes Anderson movies, and it has been in that upper tier for a very long time. I think the animation is so stunning. I think the voice cast is like this huge ensemble, and while character wise, maybe not everybody has a lot to do, acting wise, like you point out the voice and you're like, that's Bryan Cranston, that's Ed Norton, that's whoever. And it's just fun. And I love the world building. It's just such a cool little universe that Wes Anderson put together. And I had this at 5 stars for a while. And then on a rewatch, I dropped it to 4.5. And the same can be said for Room, where Room, I watched it for the first time and was totally floored. I think Jacob Tremblay gives possibly my favorite child performance in any movie ever, if I'm being honest here.
Wow.
And I love how the movie is kind of like broken up into two halves, where the first half is like this kind of intense thriller drama, and then it more pivots to just a full-on drama in the second half once they get out of the room. Brie Larson is amazing, deserved all the recognition she got for this. And this is really one of the tougher matchups for me, because these have both been at 5 stars for me. They're both now at 4.5, and I love them both, and I don't think either of them get the recognition they should. And I'm narrowly going to go Isle of Dogs, but it is so close. I will not be mad about either of these losing, honestly.
I'm going to go with Room for this one. Isle of Dogs is a great movie. I believe it might have been the first Wes Anderson film I've ever seen. So this one introduced me to his filmography. Again, a lot of creative animation and a really engaging story. But I think Room is just a phenomenal film with it that's just extremely emotional throughout. It's just watching like that first half of them just being stuck in that room was just so hard to watch. And then it's just as hard to watch when they're out of the room and they're kind of just dealing with real life. I think it's extremely emotional. Jacob Tremblay and Brie Larson are just so good in this movie. I'm going with Room for this one.
During 2020, my mom and I had kind of a phase where we just watched a bunch of movies together. Room was one of those movies. We also like pretty much binged David Fincher and just did a lot of other like fun things, and I fondly remember that. And Room being one of those movies is something that is pretty nice. But that being said, I love Isle of Dogs. I think it might be my second favorite Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen a lot of Wes Anderson movies, but for me personally, I think his style translates just a lot better to stop motion, or like just claymation stop motion type of animation that he goes for rather than live action. And I find it to just be just more like freeing, I guess is a good word. I feel like he can do more with it. And yeah, I liked Isle of Dogs a lot. I mean, just watch the sushi scene on YouTube.
The sushi scene is so good.
So good.
I could talk for 2 hours about how good the sushi scene is.
Yeah,
it's just the most satisfying thing ever.
Maybe my most like just watched scene.
It's up there with Woody getting cleaned in Toy Story 2 as like the most satisfying scene in animation or just film as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sets up a really fun Grand Budapest versus Isle of Dogs matchup.
Only one Wes makes it out alive.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's fun though. Okay.
All right.
Next up, 1917 versus Kubo and the Two Strings. So back to back, our only stop motion movies on the bracket.
I remember loving Kubo and the Two Strings when it came out. It's a fantastic adventure story, but I haven't really thought about it that much, like in a really long time. Like it hasn't stuck with me that much in a long time. Where 1917 has just a little more. I think 1917 is a fantastic achievement. Just a war movie that's doing a one take. Like that's a really impressive achievement. It also has a great story and is extremely emotional. And it shows war in a way much differently than Dunkirk does, but still very effective.
No, I agree. I I have a hard time with this because I feel like I'm colder on both of these movies, where it's not that I dislike them, it's just that nothing particularly stands out to me about either of them. Like, yeah, Kubo's animation is fantastic, and yeah, the way that 1917 was crafted is wonderful. But in terms of just like story and whatnot, neither stuck with me. I watched 1917 on an iPad and I watched Kubo on an airplane, so maybe those two are sort of part of why. But also, like, I've seen other movies on an iPad and then they became one of my favorite movies, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, so maybe not. And with that being said, I'm gonna narrowly agree with Brendan on 1917, but just very narrowly and not because I'm super passionate about it.
Okay. I almost agree with that. I think story-wise, I don't take away a lot from either of these. Visually, they are both total feasts, and I have seen both of them on theater screens, and they were both great experiences. I think 1917, it's just I am gonna pick it because one, it has the night window scene where the one take is finally broken, and like he runs out from the house and into like this war zone, and the way that it is shot, where he is running and it is pitch black, but also then illuminated by like the fire, and the music is like belting. It is one of my favorite scenes from that year, which is saying a lot because it is my favorite year of the decade, 2019.
Yeah.
And Kubo, I think, is so inventive with the stop motion, has a really good voice cast, and I think has a lot of moments towards the end that are just really cool. But I don't think it has a scene like that just makes me step back and be like, holy crap, wait, this is actually awesome. The whole movie's awesome, but there's no standout piece like that, so I am going to pick it narrowly.
That's a good take, and I agree with that. All right, so 3-0, but close.
Yeah.
It seems like. Okay. Marriage Story and Boyhood. I hate to say that a movie that took like 20 years to make gets cleared, but I think Marriage Story clears Boyhood.
I don't think it does.
Wow.
I'm gonna fight you on that. And
I'm also gonna fight you on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I guess Marriage Story is going to lose. All right.
no. You know why? Because I prefer it to Boyhood, and I'm voting for it over Boyhood. However, I think it sounds like Brendan disagrees. So
no, not Boyhood.
Yeah. No, I love Boyhood so much. It was like, and it's a stereotype at this point that like you watch Boyhood like when you are a boy getting into film at that age. It just resonates. It's just bound to. And I watched it very early on and when I was getting into film. And so while the whole way that they filmed it is a total gimmick and is a huge selling point of like why you should watch the movie and why the movie's good and works, I think it is really effective. And it's just really cool seeing these characters actually physically grow up. And like it's kind of told in vignettes where they did only film 15 minutes for each year, and because of that you can't really plot out the whole thing. It's just kind of stuff coming into his life and his family and him dealing with it and him just growing as a person. And so it's one of the most unique coming of age movies just because of the execution. And so I don't want to say Marriage Story clears it because I think it has so much merit, is one of the most interesting, just in terms of how it was done, movies of the decade.
That's fair.
But, and I will bring my personal life into it because I connected with Boyhood as a coming-of-age story for a teenage boy because, that applies. But also, child of divorce here. So there are a lot of things with Marriage Story that I was able to pick up on that if you have not lived through those experiences, you might not be able to. And Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver both are giving such good performances. Adam Driver was like debatably my favorite performance of 2019. The fight scene has been talked about to death, maybe even memed to death a little. It's still effective. And even the quieter moments, like when they're in court and it's just like those little disagreements where they're not even fighting about something. It's just the way that those two characters just being in the same room as each other elicits conflict, and it might not even be major conflict, but there are just those small disagreements where they don't line up. And you have Laura Dern, so awesome, kicking ass. I love her here. And I don't know. I like this is easily my favorite Noah Baumbach movie. I think the script is impeccable. It's really funny too. It took until my most recent rewatch to realize like there are a lot of really funny scenes when like they're trying to give him the divorce papers, but trying to do it in a way where she's not the one handing it to him, but it happens anyway. Like that's just like fun situational comedy that arises from just the utmost of drama, and I love it so much. It was one of the standouts of an incredibly great year, and so despite how much I connect with Boyhood, and it's tough because I love both of these, I do have to pick Marriage Story.
Yeah, I think I just saw Boyhood for the first time last week. I think it's a phenomenal film, like easily now one of an all-time favorite for me. I just love how it's just kind of capturing these characters' lives over 12 years and how there's not too much storylines and plot lines throughout, but it's just kind of experiencing life. But if it has to lose to a movie, Marriage Story is a pretty good movie to win over it. Yeah, Marriage Story is a phenomenal drama, even though I like Boyhood better. So,
yeah, and I want to acknowledge that Boyhood is a really good film. I like it. Like, it's not that I don't think it's a good movie, but I just think that Marriage Story is one of the best movies of this decade, in my opinion. While I just kind of saw Boyhood as like a really good one.
Yeah. I think there's an argument to be made that Marriage Story is just more nuanced. I think it's either the gimmick or just maybe how real Boyhood is at times. It's just like it can be seen as pretentious, and while I disagree, it's like I don't know. There are just more reasons I think that I come back to Marriage Story where it hits me, whereas Boyhood is like it's sprawling and it's long, and I love that because it really makes it feel eventful and like it is essentially chronicling this guy's life from like 6 to 18. But I don't know. I just have more issues with it, I think.
That's fair.
It's a very close one, though.
So let's move on to Shutter Island versus X-Men Days of Future Past. Do you want to talk about this one, or?
I mean, it's a 3 versus a 30. I feel like there's not a ton here.
Shutter Island clears.
I think I like Days of Future Past slightly more.
Ooh. Okay. All right.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I was like, I've seen Days of Future Past like 10 times, maybe a dozen times. I think it's like the second best X-Men movie behind Logan. Might be a hot take. I don't know, but
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree that's second best.
But
I just think Shutter Island's a lot better.
I think it's slightly better than Shutter Island, so I'm going to give it the up vote.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Shutter Island, which I think colder on Shutter Island than I am with easily any of the other 3 seeds. But I watched Days of Future Past for the first time today, and like haven't seen that many X-Men movies. I can't really pick it, can I? And I wouldn't want to anyway. So
yeah.
What
do you think of Days of Future Past, though?
I really liked it. It was fun.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool just doing a time travel superhero movie is just a fun idea. It was cool. I liked it. I enjoyed it very much, but it's not Shutter Island.
All right. Now I think we have 3 really interesting ones.
We do. Yeah. I've been waiting for this.
I wonder if you figured out which one is the one I've been dreading.
I don't know. I think I know.
These last 3 all seem kind of hard choices.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll start out with 14 versus 19, Tangled versus The Wind Rises. Who wants to start?
I think you should start.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I got to see Tangled in a theater, and that was a great experience. And I still remember it. Disney princess movies are great. Let's admit it. You know, there's just such a great feeling about them. With that being said, I think The Wind Rises as a coming of age film, as an aviation film, as just this beautiful piece by Miyazaki. I fought you so hard because you wanted to cut this movie, and I was like, no, we are not cutting The Wind Rises. And you were like, yeah, but Princess Kaguya is here. That's Ghibli. And I was like, yeah, but Miyazaki is not just like Ghibli. And I fought you to death on that, and
Yeah.
I would still fight you to death on it. I think
Good job for holding your ground. I'm happy it's here.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite Miyazaki movies, and I've seen his whole filmography, so I feel pretty good about being able to say that. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Can I go next?
Yes.
This is such a tough one, and I'm surprised that it is.
Oh, wait.
And I think the way that I'm thinking about it is, if I were to sit here and pick what movie I think is better, I think The Wind Rises takes it immediately. But Tangled, I think, is one of the best, one of the most iconic, like, generational defining Disney movies to come out of this decade. And I think The Wind Rises is a movie that I don't think about that much. And I've also seen Miyazaki's whole filmography. I've watched every Ghibli movie. And maybe it's due for a rewatch because I've only watched it once, and I've rewatched a lot of Ghibli movies, but not this one. I just don't think about it that much. And while Miyazaki compared to Disney, I think Miyazaki wins, I think it's upper tier Disney versus lower tier Miyazaki. And so it's a really interesting matchup. And again, just quality wise, Wind Rises looks better. It has more to say. It is so much more mature. It is like one of the most mature animated movies that is out there from this decade. I think I'm going to go Tangled, honestly, as just the one that hits me more and that resonates and that defines this decade. That might be controversial, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think you're just doing this to spite me for not letting you cut it.
No, I'm happy it's here. I'm happy it made for a very interesting matchup. Like this, I saw these two movies going against each other. My first thought was, I don't know what I'm going to pick. And then my second thought was, I think I'm going to pick The Wind Rises. And then it's like, in my heart, I can't. I don't know.
Wow, do I really have to be the tiebreaker?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's not an enviable position.
They're so different because Tangled is a movie where I still remember my theater experience back in 2010 versus The Wind Rises, which I watched yesterday. This is really tough. I do agree with everything you have both said about both movies. They're both phenomenal. But Tangled is definitely one of the best Disney movies of the decade, and I do think The Wind Rises might be one of the best Studio Ghibli movies I've seen in a while. I haven't seen every Studio Ghibli movie, so maybe I don't know, but if I had to pick the two, maybe because of recency bias, I might have to give the slightest edge to Wind Rises.
And you know what? I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think The Wind Rises.
This was so close for me.
Yeah.
I think Studio Ghibli just has this, a lot of these movies just have, like a lot of Studio Ghibli films are really transportive, and I love about that. Like they're so easy to get sucked into the world and the characters.
I think I ought to slap myself for picking Disney over Ghibli in any case, so thank you for putting The Wind Rises through to the next round when I couldn't do it myself.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Right. We've reached the round for me.
This is the one?
This is the one. I saw this matchup and a pit dropped in my stomach.
We have 6 seed Blade Runner 2049 going against 27 seed Creed.
I love both of these films. I think Blade Runner, for a while, I thought was Denis' best movie. While on the other hand, I just think Creed is this monumental boxing film, a monumental Rocky movie. I think it might be the best Rocky movie.
I agree.
I also think Sylvester Stallone gives such a good performance. Should have won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. Total, just terrible decision by the Academy there. Not
Who
to
won
give it
that
to
year?
him. Don't even remember.
Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of Spies.
Yeah, yep.
That's it.
Stallone easily should have won. So, it's a very hard decision, but I do have to go with Creed. I've seen Creed now. How many times have I seen Creed? I know I've seen Creed since before I had Letterboxd, but just on Letterboxd, I've logged it. Oh, I've only logged it twice on Letterboxd, but I know I've seen it probably 5 times at least, and I just love it, and it's just as good every single time I watch it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
go
agree.
next. Can I go
Oh,
next?
yeah, you
Yeah,
can
I'll
go
go
next.
next.
I mean, you may have just spoiled it, I guess.
I might have accidentally spoiled it.
No, it sounds like I'm losing here, which sucks because I do think Blade Runner 2049 for me is one of my favorite movies of the decade easily. It's my favorite Villeneuve movie, I think, honestly, by a good margin. And like I like it more than the original Blade Runner,
More
and I
than
love
Dune
the
2?
original. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
I
Okay.
think, and you know why is because I think both of those are just like very hard sci-fi, and I love hard sci-fi, and I love Villeneuve doing it because he is a director who, as a vibes guy, I love him because he is able to film these worlds in a way that makes them so immersive. And I think the reason I prefer Blade Runner is because Dune 2, it's Dune, like as a story, it is so influential and it is so nuanced. There's so much going on. And while the plot of Blade Runner 2049 is also really great, it's the visuals and it's the score and it's the
Yeah.
cinematography for me that I think it's the most visually stunning movie on this bracket. I think
That's a
I would say.
pretty good take.
And while I love Creed, I love it so much. Like the scene when Michael B. Jordan is in his little gray hoodie and he's running through the street, and the dudes come on with like the what is it? Their bikes, their
Yeah.
ATV, they're like whatever, and like circling around him, and he's yelling at Sylvester Stallone, watching him from the window. It's so good. It pumps me up so much. But Blade Runner is one of the best movies of the decade, and it sounds like it's not even going to make it to the next round. I'm going to cry.
That's why this round killed me, because these are two movies that I would have easily backed to make it at least to the Sweet 16.
Like I think this is probably my favorite movie we're talking about today.
It's unfortunate. I feel bad for voting
Damn.
over Blade Runner 2049 because it is a phenomenal sci-fi film that I do like better than the first Blade Runner and maybe better than both Dunes. I'm not sure. I have to rewatch Blade Runner 2049, but I think it's a really fantastic sci-fi film. But I think Creed is just like an all-time favorite for me. Like I've had it in my top 4 for a while. It's like a top 10, top 15 favorite movie, and like the music for that training montage I've listened to while going on to runs. It's very uplifting. I think it's the best Rocky film. Michael B. Jordan is fantastic in this, and it's a great continuation of the Rocky series while kind of doing something new and switching the main characters. Yeah, another fantastic film for Ryan Coogler.
I'm not even going to get that mad though, because like with the Lego movie last week, that was insane. But it's like I love Creed, and when I like it was in my top 4 for a while, and I honestly didn't resonate with Blade Runner as much as I did with Creed until I rewatched it like maybe 2 years ago. And so it sucks, but like I'm happy that Creed has another round because it's so great.
It is.
And as someone who never really loved the first Rocky, who is never really that invested in it as a franchise, this is the one that made me be like, oh, boxing movies can be really, really good, and it's one of my favorite sports movies.
Yeah. No, it's one of mine too. All
Oh,
right,
that
so
hurts.
it does. I don't like this. I like Blade Runner is just such a good vibes movie because literally we just watch Ryan Gosling walk around cool areas for like half an hour of this film.
When it's
But-
all orange and stuff, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
It's so I could watch
How
him
did they
just
do
walk.
that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But all right.
Oh.
Inside Out at 11 versus Mission Impossible Fallout at 22. Only Mission Impossible film we got on this list.
Can I go first?
Yes, you can.
This one also crushes me. And we've had like 3 of these now back to back, like you said.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. This is a tough one because, and it's like many of the matchups we've had, they are so different, and I love them both for such utterly different reasons. Inside Out, since it came out, it makes me cry. It's one of those, it is. I think it is, as a concept, obviously the most Pixar thing Pixar has ever done, but it works. And the way that they are so effectively able to just really convey the importance of all emotions instead of just the one that is generally associated with the like being the positive one, I think is such a great message. And I think is one that up until this point hadn't really been seen in a movie like this. And the way it's executed is so perfect. And when joy and sadness are running around Riley's like imagination land, you have the scene where they're like making the dreams on a film set. There are so many cool ideas, and I love it. And it is like, while I was initially against Inside Out 2 as a concept, the movie did end up being really good. I just wanted to spend more time in this world. It's such an interesting idea, and I love how they did it. And then on the other end, Mission Impossible Fallout is one of my favorite action movies ever made. And I am such a sucker for good action movies when it's like not an action comedy, not like a superhero movie. It's just straight action. And it's just people doing cool shit. And Tom Cruise is the guy. He like broke his, like he jumped from building to building and like broke his foot, ankle, leg, whatever. The take kept going. He finished it because he's just so committed to it. And I think like the bathroom fight scene where there's no music, so cool. The finale with the helicopters, so cool. There's so many great action sequences here. And I love stunt work. I love practical stunt work, and I have such an appreciation for anybody who is willing to go this far just to entertain their audience. And this is one of the toughest matchups on the whole bracket, not just this round. I am so narrowly going to give it to Fallout. It's so close, though.
Yeah, this is a really tough decision. All right, Brendan, you want to take second pick?
Oh, no. Yeah, this is a really tough decision. I think Mission Impossible Fallout is the best Mission Impossible movie by far. It has fantastic action sequences. Henry Cavill is such a great addition, has some of the best sequences of the franchise.
The Halo jump!
The Halo jump, the helicopter fight, the bathroom fight, the motorcycle chase in France. So many fantastic sequences. But I have to give, like, the slightest, like, the extremely slightest edge to Inside Out, just because it's just a phenomenal movie. It's really well written, and it does a great job of just conveying such a great message about emotions, and just it deals with so many relatable issues and just a lot of great themes. And it's still really funny and still really emotional. I rewatched it before the second one. And it's like, it's one of the rare Pixar movies where it's like, you kind of want to see a second one too. Like, there's just so much to this world where it kind of really deserves a continuation because there's just so many creative ideas.
I am also having a really hard time with this. This is a really,
is this
really
the toughest
tough
one
matchup.
yet?
I don't think so. I saw last round as the toughest one.
All right.
Or at least the toughest one of this bracket.
Okay.
But I think I need to give it to Fallout.
Nice.
I haven't seen Fallout since 2018 in a movie theater.
Really?
I've seen Inside Out since then. I saw Inside Out in 2022. Fallout still sticks with me. I remember all those big action sequences. I remember Henry Cavill. I remember all of it. You remember him
reloading his arms?
Yes. Oh my god.
the trailer for this, where it's like friction and like all those cheesy lines. It's like, it's one of the most memorable trailers to me.
It is one of the best trailers.
Yeah, me in early 8th grade loved it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
This is like a few months before I got Letterboxd. Loved it. Yeah. That's so good. Okay.
I've seen it 6 times.
Wow. I need to see it again. I know I'm at least going to see it again before the next Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah. 3 crazy upsets to end this.
Yeah. 3 really tough decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
This isn't fun. This is painful.
This is, and it's interesting because
It's
the
only gonna
start
get
of
more
this
painful.
was really easy, and then
Yeah.
it just got really hard at the end, and now we're going to round 2 where it's gonna get harder.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Spider-Verse versus Dunkirk. Do you
I feel
need
like
to
this
spend
is
time
an
on
easy
this?
one.
Yeah, I think this is easy. I'm Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I was like, watch Ethan say Dunkirk.
Nah. All right.
Lady Bird and Endgame.
I'll go with Lady Bird. I think Lady Bird is a fantastic drama, fantastic coming of age story. I've rewatched it a lot. I've like seen it maybe 3 times, and I think after seeing it for the third time and like 5 years after seeing it, it like kind of solidified it as like a favorite movie of mine. I think it's just such a great drama, and Cerise Ronan and I'm forgetting the actress' name, but the actress that plays the mom are both really great in this, and it's such a great movie.
Yeah.
Logs.
Yeah, Saoirse Ronan is so good. She carries this film. Well, not carries in like a way like nothing else is good, but she's just fantastic. But it's just overall such a beautiful film, and it's kind of interesting because it's kind of going up against back to back just tentpole blockbusters of the 2010s, and it beats them both because I'm also going with Lady Bird.
And I would agree with you guys. Seeing, like, obviously Endgame is the biggest movie of the decade, but, like, seeing Lady Bird at Cinemapolis when they re-released it with all of, like, the film majors who, like myself, worship Greta Gerwig as, like, a god of the modern age, it just resonated so hard. Like, when Saoirse Ronan says that there is no Tempest in the Tempest, and Beanie Feldstein goes off and yells, "It's the titular role," like nothing in Endgame hits that level. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
When it's her driving and then it cuts to Laurie Metcalf in the car driving and like she's tearing up. Yeah, it wins.
Yeah,
All
Laurie
right.
Metcalf. That's what I meant to say. Laurie Metcalf is
Yeah.
also fantastic in this.
So moving on, number 4, Gone Girl versus 20, The Martian. This is really tough.
Really?
Really, really tough. Or at least I'm assuming it's tough. I
You
guess
wanna go
It's
first,
not
then?
tough for me.
It's not tough for
Yeah.
me either.
Really, okay, I have an easy time with Gone Girl.
Okay.
I'm going with Gone Girl.
Me too.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just kind of figuring it was really tough. All right.
What, for us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we'll talk about it eventually when it goes up against a movie that we don't know for sure it's going to beat immediately.
Now, this might be a tough one. Two
This
Best
is a
Picture
tough one, actually, for me.
Number
Yeah.
5, Moonlight versus number 12, Birdman. All right, Ethan, you want to take it?
I'll take it. This is a toughie. This is a real toughie. Birdman, when I first watched it, became an all-time favorite. And it was very early on, and I think it did because I had never seen a one-take movie, and it was just like the way that it was done gripped me to all hell. And in rewatching it, I still love it. It's still a favorite. The novelty of the one take has worn off a little bit, and now I think I like it even more for the acting and the screenplay. Moonlight, I watched for the first time a while back, loved it, didn't particularly resonate with me, and then I recently rewatched it and loved it. And I think where I am in my life now, I'm very much more able to appreciate it than I was before. And it's tough because Moonlight has grown on me. Birdman hasn't, but I think I'm gonna pick Birdman. It's very close. I might catch some flack for that, but I think Birdman, like I love maximalist style, and Moonlight is like possibly the best version of where it's more scaled back, and it's just in the cinematography, in the score, in the really great dialogue. I think Birdman just does a little bit more for me. But I love Moonlight so much, and if you guys both pick it, I will not be in the slightest bit ticked off.
Yeah. I have a really tough time with this. Yeah, these are two just really deserving Best Pictures Like really good picks. And
I wouldn't have picked either of them, by the way.
I also
they're
wouldn't
still
have picked
both
either
great.
of them.
yeah, but
they're still both
like,
great. Like,
and
Yeah.
they stand the test of time.
Totally.
You know? They're not the kind of ones where you look back and it's not the King's Speech.
Oh
you
god,
know?
yeah.
So I'm also just kind of looking at it the same way you were talking about it, where Moonlight is this film that the longer I've sat with it after seeing it, the better it's gotten to me. Birdman, on the other hand, since seeing it, I just kind of feel the same about. So I am going to go with Moonlight.
Okay.
I think it's this beautiful, just generation lasting story that goes through the stages of this man's life and his struggle as a lower class gay black man. You know, those are three just defining things that set him back, and this film really dives into that and interrogates it, and it's so moving. And yeah, so Brendan, you're our tiebreaker.
I think I'll break the tie by picking Moonlight.
Yeah.
Just the slightest
Yeah.
to Birdman, because Birdman is a fantastic drama with fantastic performances, but I think just the way Moonlight tackles its themes and how it develops the main character throughout from childhood to adulthood and the places it goes to, I think I prefer Moonlight.
I'm so happy that Moonlight has now won 2 rounds and has fully justified the amount of torture it was to get it in this bracket after
Yeah.
I got it.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we got the Wes Anderson matchup.
The Wes Anderson off. Oh my
Grand
gosh.
Budapest Hotel, number 2, 15 Isle of Dogs. I'm going to go first because I feel like I'm going to have the pick that you guys don't.
Oh,
That being
dear.
Isle of Dogs.
Oh no.
I'm just going to reiterate what I've already said. I think his stop motion animation translates so much better to Wes Anderson style than live action. And yes, Grand Budapest is a really well-made film, but I almost found it overwhelming. And I could watch Isle of Dogs over and over and over again. I couldn't watch Grand Budapest Hotel back to back to back to back.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, and voting against Isle of Dogs is tough because I am the biggest Isle of Dogs defender. Anytime someone's like, it's not that great, I'm like, you shut up. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But the Grand Budapest Hotel has gotten so much better on every watch, and I do agree with you. It's a lot, and I don't think I would enjoy watching it back to back to back. And watching I've watched Isle of Dogs more times than I've watched Grand Budapest Hotel. But I think it is it's the rich pinks for me. The production design is so good.
It is.
And as a crime caper, it is so entertaining. I talked about this on the Wes Anderson ranking I did for my podcast last semester at school. I just kept listing things from the Grand Budapest Hotel and was hysterically laughing. Willem Dafoe is so funny in this movie. He's so cartoonishly evil when he closes the door on Jeff Goldblum's hand and his fingers fall off. When the skiing scene when it's Zero and Mr. Gustav hanging on to the edge of the cliff and he stomps down on them. The punching scene when everybody's punching each other and then he punches Ray Fiennes at the end and then comes in with the fists with the rings and the organ comes in and the spotlight centers. He's so good when he throws the cat out the window. He's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough because Wes Anderson's one of my favorite directors, and so the way that we have this where Moonrise Kingdom isn't on the bracket and then the other two can't both make it to the next round, it sucks. But I have to pick Grand Budapest Hotel. Definitely.
Yeah. All right, Brendan.
I am also picking Grand Budapest.
Yes!
I think it's one of the best. I think it's a tie with Fantastic Mr. Fox for best Wes Anderson movie. I think
those are my
just
two.
Fantastic production design. It's just a fantastic story that's a story. It's all one story within a story within a story, which is really creative. And I think Ray Fiennes' character is great. And there's just, so many great supporting casts. I think it was more memorable for me than Isle of Dogs.
Both great, though.
Yes.
Both great.
Would it be amiss to say that Marriage Story clears 1917?
I think Marriage Story clears 1917.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so weird because it's a 10 versus 7, but I just kind of assumed based on how cold we all were on 1917 that Marriage Story just,
Two great end of 2019 movies, though.
Yes.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, 2019. And that's the year where at least I know, like, that was the year I got into film. So it's
that
just
was
kind of weird.
I got into film like late 2018, and so 2019 was my sandbox, and I loved it.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2018, 2019, that was the big sandbox for me,
Yeah.
All right, so
All right.
now we got a fun Shutter Island versus Wind Rises matchup. I kind of want to hear Ethan start, because Ethan was saying how he's cold on Shutter Island, but he's also cold on Wind Rises. So
yeah. This is like the last time we had 1917 in a mashup. I'm not super passionate about either of these. Mm-hmm. They're both due for a rewatch. I haven't seen either of them in a few years, and I really loved both of them, but I know I can love them more, and I tend to be the kind of person who almost always will like it more on rewatch. And I'm gonna pick Shutter Island. I'm sorry. No, I think Shutter Island tonally, I just really dig it. Like, the story itself, I think, can get a little messy at times. I think it's a good DiCaprio performance, but it's definitely not one of his best. But I think it's just a really interesting movie for Scorsese. I don't know if I would have known Scorsese directed this if I didn't know Scorsese directed this. It just weirdly doesn't feel like him. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I just like on the island. It's just cool. Like the way that the score is used is awesome, and The Wind Rises. Like the animation is stunning. I think visually it's better than Shutter Island, and again, Miyazaki kind of taking this controversial figure in Japanese history and making a movie about him. Weirdly goes over really well, and I really like what he does with this person and this story. I just think there are not a lot of moments in here that I remember vividly, that I think about, that I come back to. And while I would say the same with Shutter Island, I think just tonally I like it more. So, yeah. Are you guys more passionate about these two?
I think
I'm more passionate about The Wind Rises.
Yeah, I'm also more passionate about Wind Rises. I'm different because I just watched The Wind Rises for the first time yesterday, so a lot of it has stuck with me a lot, and just a little more than Shutter Island. I think it's just a fantastic story. I think I just love Studio Ghibli. I just need to see more of them.
Yeah. I think the twist of Shutter Island stuck with me. I really did like and appreciate that twist, but that was kind of the peak. Well, The Wind Rises had just so many beautiful and quaint moments. It's a Ghibli film, and not even it's a Miyazaki film, and I think that it's not necessarily a top 3 Miyazaki, but it's close for me. And I'd say just the fact that The Wind Rises makes it this far says a lot about Hayao Miyazaki as a director.
I've done nothing to help it. But...
You have. This is like a Lego movie for you where you've done nothing to help it, but
I know, but
Brendan and I will push.
It's Miyazaki, so I don't mind you pushing.
And now we got our final matchup of the round, Creed versus Mission Impossible Fallout.
Who's going first?
Who wants to start?
Seems like nobody does.
Brendan,
I can start. They are both. I believe these films are both the best of their franchises, but I'm going to go with Creed over Mission Impossible Fallout just because it's a fantastic drama, fantastic story, fantastic character arc with Adonis Creed and introducing him to the franchise and putting Rocky as a supporting character, but still making it just as compelling, just as interesting. You're still motivated for Adonis to kind of become a big boxer as you are Rocky to overcome his cancer diagnosis. I'm gonna go with Creed. No shade to Mission Impossible though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go next. These are both really great movies, and they are both really great movies that I don't think have a particular ton of nuance to them. They're just both really fun, just like they're good movies.
Yeah.
Like I don't have like I think Creed has a good bit with like the whole legacy of like the Creed name. And it's obviously like it's a sports movie, so motivationally it has a lot going for it. But like neither of these I sit back and I'm like the messages really stuck out to me. I just enjoy watching the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to pick Fallout because again, such a sucker for good action. And I think like Creed also has some really good action. There's the one take fight in the middle. That's so cool. Nobody talks about that scene. It's epic. And like you feel the impact of every punch despite the fact that you are never once cutting on action, which is typically how you would accomplish feeling the weight of those punches. But Fallout is just I've watched it 6 times. It's just the stunt work is crazy and I love it. And it's some of the most entertaining filmmaking of the decade, I think. And I feel like I'm about to be heartbroken again.
Yeah, sadly, then I'm sorry. I gotta break your heart here.
No, it's okay.
Creed is just one of my favorite films. That's just on this bracket as a whole. Just a film that I've gone back to time and time again ever since I watched it initially. Just a feel-good film. Like there are its struggling moments, but at the end of the day, it's a film that you watch and you feel good after you watch it. And I could watch Creed over and over and over again. It's similar to how I feel about a movie like the Lego Movie from last round.
Right.
And I mean, here it is. It's a 20 seed that's made it this far.
Yeah.
And you know, it's actually kind of funny looking back because Fruitvale Station made it this far. Ryan Coogler, MBJ collaboration, and we have 2 of those in back-to-back rounds here, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And I think just speaks volumes on how great they are as a pair. And we get to see them pair up again next year.
Yeah.
Which is going to be great.
If Blade Runner 2049 was going to get taken out first round, I'm happy that the movie that did it becomes an actual contender rather than just like getting decimated the next round. And I think,
you kidding me? This is an actual contender.
Yeah, Creed is totally worthy of being not only on this bracket, but winning multiple rounds. And while I might disagree with what it is beating, like it's so good.
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue that Creed would be worthy of winning the whole tournament. Whether or not I actually think it will, but I'd say it's worthy.
I would also say it's worthy.
I think a lot of these are worthy, and only one can.
Yeah,
but I'm not upset Creed made it this far. Not like the Lego Movie.
All right. Well, anywho, let's go back to Spider-Verse.
Let's do it.
Who's now up against Lady Bird? I think.
Are we going to talk about Spider-Verse now?
I think we should talk about Spider-Verse now, right? Or do we really think it's not close?
I mean, we didn't talk about Parasite really last time, but
we didn't. But I feel like Lady Bird is stronger than Midsommar.
I might agree with you. I love them both.
I'd give it to Spider-Verse, but I do think it's pretty close. I think both of these films function really well as coming-of-age movies.
Yeah.
And movies that do a good job portraying what it's like to be a teenager in our generation. However, Spider-Verse does it with the greatest animation of its time until Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
It does it with paying immense homage and respect to the greatest superhero of all time.
Yeah.
And it introduces the world to Miles Morales, who has become just as loved as Peter Parker at this point.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Vibes.
So I give it to Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Lady Bird's great. We've talked about it already. I don't want to repeat things I've already said, but I think it is a fight, but I do give it the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, this really pains me because these are two all-time favorite movies for me, but I have to give the, once again, very slight edge to Into the Spider-Verse just because a lot of things Logan said. It has fantastic animation. It balances so many great characters. We get such a great journey of introducing not only three really compelling Spider-Man in one movie, and yeah, it's just I'm gonna have to go Into the Spider-Verse. I feel really bad because I love Lady Bird a lot, but I have to go with my heart and choose Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm gonna then do the thing that both of you have done and narrowly pick Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I think it's a really close one. I do agree they're both such good coming of age movies. And Spider-Man as a character is, I don't know if I would say the best superhero. Maybe it's a toss-up. I might say so, but definitely the best for having a coming of age story in that genre, where we've gotten so many superhero movies, especially in the 2010s, and they have taken so many different directions. But I think Spider-Man still is very clearly the street level, relatable, just kid guy who anyone can see themselves as. And so that whole thing of like anyone can wear the mask, like, yes, it's cheesy, it's corny as hell, but it's true, and it's an inspirational message. And the "What's Up Danger" scene is like one of the best scenes of the decade. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
The fast-paced comedy, how the visuals somehow are able to keep up with that and enhance it, it's awesome. And like many of these other movies, it balances a lot of characters. But unlike what I would maybe point to similarly, which are the Avengers movies, it's like it's the first Spider-Verse movie. Like, yes, we're familiar with Spider-Man already. There's a lot of background we don't need explained to us because we know it already. The movie pokes fun at that effectively, I would say. But it's not like the conclusion of some major franchise. It's not even the conclusion of a part of some major franchise. It's the first movie in a trilogy. Many people, myself included, weren't really familiar with Miles before this. And so it introduces him really effectively, and it makes us care about all these characters. And while I love Across more than Into, Across doesn't work nearly as well as it does unless you already have investment in these characters and their stories. And you do, because this is such a good movie. And so while I love Lady Bird, and it has so many great moments, I think it's Spider-Verse for me.
I'm glad that we actually talked that through, though, because I think Lady Bird deserves that.
Yeah.
In that it is close. Let's go to number 4, Gone Girl, versus number 5, Moonlight. I think this is when we finally get to talk about Gone Girl a little bit.
Yeah.
Gone Girl, before I talked about how there were a few films that I watched summer 2020 with my mom, and I very just happily remember that. Gone Girl is one of those movies. Gone Girl, to me, is just a fantastic murder mystery type of film. And David Fincher just brings out all his directorial chops here. And I'm not going to say it's his best film, because I've been inwardly debating about what I really think is his best film, but what I'd say is just his most stereotypically David Fincher film.
I don't know if I would say it's the most, but I would definitely... I think it's a more mainstream kind of movie for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he's kind of applying his style to a story that is more palatable, I think. If that makes sense? That might not make sense.
I feel like I would say that that's The Social Network, but...
Maybe. I think Zodiac is the most David Fincher movie, if that argument is going to be made. But
I haven't seen every David Fincher film, so I can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen most of them, but yeah. Anyways, regardless of how we feel about what's the most David Fincher or not, this is just, it's great regardless. It's a dark, mysterious, edge of your seat, thriller, romance kind of character study. It's really everything that I personally want in a movie. I pick it over Moonlight. It kind of clears Moonlight to me. But I didn't
Really?
want to say it clears Moonlight. But like
I
to
didn't
me,
expect
does.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Should I go next then?
You can go next, Ethan.
I'm also gonna pick Gone Girl, and that's
Oh,
weird and
wow.
unexpected. And I'm actually going against my own opinions because right now I have Moonlight at 5 stars and I have Gone Girl at 4.5. But in thinking about it, like I would pick Gone Girl over Moonlight any day of just like what do I want to watch.
Yeah.
It's just really fun. It's so engrossing. And I love how it twists who you are rooting for throughout the movie, where like you hate Nick Dunn, but Amy's worse, but they're both terrible.
Yeah.
What do I do? It's just really fun, and it takes a lot of like the procedural aspects of a lot of Fincher's best movies, but it's like this whole like woman gone missing domestic scandal type thing, and it's great. And I want to read the book because I want to see how the book compares to it. Like the scene in the middle when it is finally revealed that Amy is not dead or missing, she like this was all her idea. That is crazy, and watching
Yeah.
that for the first time was insane.
Yeah.
There are like the screenplay is so good, and I can say the same thing for Moonlight, and it's really tough.
It is.
And emotionally, Moonlight resonates more. I think impacts me more as a story. But as, again, someone who just lives for good-ass movies, Gone Girl is it. And I think I do have to pick it.
I agree.
Brendan,
Wow,
what you say
this
doesn't
is-
matter, but say it anyway.
Yeah, this is surprising. I'm going with
Yeah.
Moonlight over Gone Girl. I did just watch Gone Girl, and I think it's a fantastic movie that, yeah, it was highly fun to watch based on how unpredictable it was. But yeah, I think I like Moonlight more. But if Moonlight has to get knocked out, I think Gone Girl is a pretty good movie to move ahead.
Moonlight has Mahershala Ali, but Gone Girl has weird Neil Patrick Harris stunt casting, and that's just funnier. So
It is funny.
That was an interesting role to see Neil Patrick.
why is he
Harris on.
there?
All right. Well, next one up, we got number 2, Grand Budapest Hotel up against number 10, Marriage Story. Who wants to take it?
I'll
Start
take it.
out.
I'll
Okay.
take it. This is another close one.
Yeah.
This
I figured.
is, other than the next matchup, which we'll get to, this whole round is really contentious for me. And Marriage Story is a movie that I have always loved. Grand Budapest Hotel is a movie that I always really liked and has just aged so great for me. And I've watched both of them now 3 times. And it's tough because one is much more dramatically focused, one is much more comedically focused. One is kind of this fantastical caper. One is a more grounded drama. And so it's a weird matchup where they are both bringing different things to the table. The screenplays of each, I think, are probably my favorite aspect of each. I think the acting in Marriage Story goes above and beyond to where it maybe has an edge there. But I think I'm picking Grand Budapest Hotel. I think that the more that I think about it, the more I just appreciate it and love it. And Marriage Story is great, but I would be lying if I said I am always in the mood for something like Marriage Story. Whereas Grand Budapest Hotel is just a load of fun, and I love it.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick Marriage Story. I mean, I think I already made it clear. Not that I don't like Grand Budapest Hotel, but just that I'm not as enthusiastic about the film as most people are.
Yeah.
Well, Marriage Story, on the other hand, just from the first time I saw it, just blew my mind as a movie from the opening scene, and then for the whole time, the performances blew my mind. Just everything about the film was
Being alive.
and Yeah, I not that I could watch Marriage Story over and over again because I couldn't, but I would kind of happily watch Marriage Story right now and then get heartbroken by the film. I don't like if somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to watch Grand Budapest Hotel right now?" I'd be like, yeah.
Fair.
I'm gonna have to go with Grand Budapest for this. I think it's just
Figured.
a
I
phenomenal
figured.
film. I think it's slightly better than Marriage Story, though Marriage Story is really, really good. I think just, yeah, the fact that it's one of Wes Anderson's best film, and it's just so well written and just has so many great characters throughout. I'm gonna go with Grand Budapest.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, now we're on our final matchup of the round.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. 19 Wind Rises versus 27 Creed. Can Creed be our biggest Cinderella to make it over? Is it
As
really a
27
Cinderella?
seed. I mean, I feel it's a 27 seed.
Yeah, but like just because it's seeded that way.
I think the seeding does play a role in that. Where like if you are a 27 seed, the odds that you are going to be put against other movies that you can beat day in and day out. By the way, Creed is the perfect movie to be a 27 seed that makes it this far.
Yeah.
Like that's
Is.
such a Creed thing to do.
It is such a Creed thing to do.
It's
No,
such
I
a
agree.
great thing to do.
Yeah,
And with that being said, I pick Creed.
me too.
I also pick Creed.
Yeah. I love the Wind Rises, but I love Creed more.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
This is my
That's kind of-
surrogate Blade Runner 2049, by the way, so like it has to make it to the next round.
Well, now it makes it to
carrying the
episode
torch for it.
5.
Let's go!
So I guess now let's just recap this
Yeah.
the whole episode.
This saga.
Round 1, Spider-Verse beats Lincoln. Dunkirk beats Sicario. Ladybird beats Force Awakens. Endgame beats Moana. Gone Girl beats Gravity. Guardians loses to The Martian. Moonlight beats Annihilation. Birdman beats The Big Short. Grand Budapest Hotel beats Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Isle of Dog beats Room. 1917 beats Kubo. Marriage Story beats Boyhood. Shutter Island beats X-Men Days of Future Past. Tangled loses to Wind Rises. 2049 loses to Creed. Inside Out loses to Fallout. Spider-Verse beats Dunkirk, Ladybird beats Endgame, Gone Girl beats The Martian, Moonlight beats Birdman, Budapest beats Isle of Dogs, 1917 loses to Marriage Story, Shutter Island loses to Wind Rises, and Creed beats Fallout. And now finally, Spider-Verse beat Ladybird, Gone Girl beat Moonlight, Grand Budapest Hotel beat Marriage Story, Wind Rises got swept by Creed. So
Right.
now we are left... We are halfway through
Dang.
getting into the Sweet 16. I guess I'll just go through our whole lineup and just recap that too. We got Parasite up against Portrait of a Lady on Fire, La La Land up against the Lego Movie, Spider-Verse up against Gone Girl, and now Grand Budapest Hotel up against Creed. Most of these films are high seeds. Parasite a 1 seed, Lady on Fire a 5, La La Land a 2, Spider-Verse a 1, Gone Girl a 4, and Budapest Hotel a 2. But then we also have 2 20 seeds here. And the Lego Movie being a 22 and Creed being a 27. So I'm curious if we'll always have a Cinderella like that, or if there's gonna be like a bigger consensus towards the higher seeds in the upcoming rounds.
I'm curious because we deliberately structured the tournament so that the movies that we still had to watch for it were being pushed to the later 2 weeks of these first 4.
Or most
and
of
so,
them.
Right, and so a lot of the movies we've already talked about are intentionally movies we have history with, whereas that won't necessarily be the case for all of these next ones. And I'm curious to see if that makes a difference.
Me too. And just the difference that it could then make when we actually get to the Sweet 16 too. So the next 2 quarters, we do have our Whiplash and Interstellar. Those are our final quarters. And then the Sweet 16. So very exciting stuff. I did not think that we would make it to an hour and a half when we got through most of the first round in like 20 minutes.
It was
But
a weird
then-
first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
And
didn't
it
get
just
to
got
anything
more
heated till like the
tense.
last three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, it just got more and more heated. I feel
I don't know.
like.
The first week was so much fun, where like it was heated debates. This just broke my heart from beginning to end. I said
Really?
goodbye to a lot of favorites.
I had to say goodbye to Guardians right away. I was
Damn.
so sad.
Ethan, what are your
Blade
favorites
Runner-
that you've said goodbye to?
I mean, I do stand by it. Blade Runner 2049 is my favorite movie of this quarter, and it got booted first round, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But you know, we move on. Creed is here fighting in its place. Lives to see another day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Creed's a fighter.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this Spider-Verse quarter of the bracket.
See y'all next time.
Take care.
See y'all next time.
You.